Right, this is a rare treat. John Gollop, Deputy John Gollop in Jersey again.
Yes.
You've been watching a bit of our election process today. What do you make of it?
It was quite robust at times. in that it started normally enough with quite a number of interesting questions about divides between rich and poor, health, extra care, education, following the UK and reducing newly qualified teachers was an interesting issue.
And none of the issues you could not have heard in Guernsey, I take it?
Many of the issues. Independent living is a big concern in Guernsey.
Right.
So is the demographic situation of caring for people when they get older. Condor, of course, came up as a topic, and the difference between perhaps property owners and those who are not.
You've been a deputy for quite a few years now.
Yes.
Has the type of matter which you get asked about changed in Guernsey? Is it much the same now?
I suppose so. I think you get a cyclical element in politics sometimes. Transport links have become important again. The population issue.
Because you've got a slightly diminishing population in Guernsey.
Yes.
And in elderly, funny enough.
That's right. I think Jersey, we might be further ahead of Jersey in terms of a focused disability movement and disability liaison.
Well, I noticed
but Jersey have considerably more legislation than we have.
It's strange, isn't it? Because when I was over there for the election,
yes,
and I was noticing a number of people who were wearing badges to show that they were in support of the Disability Alliance or various things, which was very significant. I don't know whether it actually means anything in practical terms, but at least they were prepared to wear the badge.
On another change, if you come back to visit us in Guernsey and attend the States meeting, as indeed we've already met our Jersey counterparts since the election on the cricket field, and at work board meetings too, the big change that you, Mike, would be stunned by is the large number of women in the Assembly in Guernsey. I say large, it's still not more than half, but it's effectively a third of the Assembly are no longer of the male gender, and that would I think be a surprise. And also Jersey pundits might be surprised to see how our states has shrunk, because at one time you had 53 members and we had 55 from Guernsey, plus the 2 from Alderney, and now you're down to 49, and we've gone right down to 38.
But I always had this rather, I don't know, an optimistic view that the Guernsey parishes were rather more active in running themselves.
That's possibly true. I'm always impressed when I come to Jersey by the sheer size of your parish halls, and I know that legally and financially the parishes in Jersey have had greater autonomy than Guernsey, plus the policing role has survived, and of course you have the 12 veritable constables who are still politicians. Guernsey perhaps has developed the parishes more along the lines of community hubs and agents of Floral Guernsey, in which local pride is encouraged through winning Best of Britain balloon contests and so on, and they still have a significant role with waste, and in St Peter Port's case with the Christmas lighting. And there's a certain residual role in looking at planning applications, but it's not a decision-making power. It's more of a power of consultation.
Strange enough, the parishes here, the constables, are developing more power as far as planning applications are concerned.
Yes. One thing we've largely abandoned in Guernsey is parish welfare, although there may be a few discretionary cases and treats for the elderly and so on. in reality, our welfare system is no longer parochial. It's entirely centralised on what is now the Employment and Social Security Committee.
One word I haven't heard you utter yet, which is I'm running a campaign here, is Brexit. Has that begun to feature yet in Guernsey?
Yes. If you asked our senior political figures like Jonathan Le Toc or Gamin Saint-Pierre, we've almost got 3 chief ministers now for the price of one. They would say that Guernsey has had a plan B for Brexit, and that the team, the staff and the politicians are prepared to take advantage of any opportunities that come our way. And we might work together with Jersey or we might not, I don't know.
That's very interesting, because the protocol
it's not for me to say.
Deals with Jersey, Guernsey and the Isle of Man. One size fits all. Now, they're not very similar islands, in fact, are they?
The mood, as far as I know, from Guernsey since the election and since Brexit has been, if possible, to work together with Jersey and the Isle of Man, maybe even Gibraltar, especially as we haven't come out on the winning side of the fishing issue as just one element. But it's fair to say that one of our former leading political figures, Kevin Stewart, tended to be of the old view that Guernsey and Jersey were basically like at the Murati field, staunch competitors, and a good day for Guernsey was a bad day for Jersey, or vice versa. So, but I think now in the big wide world,
I think there's a rude awakening.
There is a rude awakening, and on a more practical level, Jersey and Guernsey are working together in Brussels with Mr. Williams and the team there, and have been, I think, on many other areas. And there's a new mood for Guernsey and Jersey politicians to meet. The problem, technically, is there's never been a time in modern political history, and I'm going back a couple of centuries here, when the Jersey and Guernsey political systems have been so different. I mean, for so long, until 1947, the islands had a system of jurats and rectors in politics, and then they both evolved a form of island-wide representation with 12 island-wide elected senior politicians and at least 10 from the parishes. And they both went for a form of ministerial government, replacing the committee structure just after the millennium. But now we are very different.
The Brexit effect, do you think it will be similar in Jersey and Guernsey? Do you think, are there subtle differences, like your finance industry is based on slightly different things to what Jersey?
Yes.
Could that be that it gets a different result if it's negotiating, if finance becomes an issue, which I'm sure it will be?
That could be the case. I mean, indications in Guernsey suggest that our legal sector has grown recently. Our financial sector has been perhaps more revolved around fiduciaries and trusts and less about the banking and deposits. Our tourism offer is slightly different. Guernsey is perhaps less diverse. We're definitely keen on the digital economy, but there are those who say that Jersey has a more established digital greenhouse environment. Guernsey's getting there. We have, of course, special industries that are huge on the island. Health span, Specsavers would be 2 examples.
So you've got a basis still of a diversified economy.
Yes, and we have the advantage of having closer links to Sark and Alderney, of course.
Ironically,
and the disadvantage of having slightly worse links to France, generally speaking.
Jersey is trying to create a finance centre in an African country.
Yes.
Is that something that Guernsey is involved in?
In African, did you say? Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge.
I mean, I think we decided to focus on Shanghai and Jersey on Hong Kong, and now I think we're looking at Hong Kong. There are people in Guernsey who entrepreneurially look towards Russia or South America.
The old independent call, is that heard much these days?
Independence?
Independence for Guernsey?
Not so much. I was going to say a subtle difference between Jersey and Guernsey post-Brexit is, I think it would be fair to say, and you notice this at St Helier when you walk around the streets, that Jersey has a much larger European population than Guernsey. And those people's perspective and role might be different post-Brexit.
Of course, your people tend to be on short contracts,
yes.
9 months and so on.
Yes.
So they tended not to stay. So that's a factor which may or may not become more apparent as the Brexit negotiations go on, isn't it?
That's right.
Is that concern being voiced?
Yes. The island is probably wanting the best of all possible scenarios and worlds, but we have to look to the future, really.
The export of goods to Britain, traditionally it's been duty-free.
Yes.
Does anybody suggest that perhaps if there's tariffs introduced between Channel Islands and Europe, the Europeans might say, well, you have to have tariffs to Britain as well? Does anybody suggest that might happen?
No, not at this stage. I mean, you asked about independence. There was a fluttering of interest in that topic in Guernsey after the Edwards Report in the 1990s. And then it disappeared for a while. Certain people resurrected the topic, particularly, I would say, learned advocate and past deputy Roger Perot, and he was a significant player in the External Affairs Review, which is looking to perhaps give Government House an enhanced role in legislation, and I think too you've seen Jonathan the Tock and his predecessors wanting to develop a growing sense of Guernsey's cultural and national identity and independence from...
That was pushed in the United Kingdom government for all the islands.
The United Kingdom has pushed it a bit, and I would say that the current team of civil servants from the Ministry of Justice appear to be more empathetic to the Channel Islands than maybe one or two of their predecessors.
And
also, occasionally, but I'm not a specialist in this area. And in fact, if I'm honest, I think all the states members of Guernsey and Jersey should get to meet more often distinguished visitors and external affairs people. Increasingly, they are only taken to see a tiny minority of the states.
There's a little seminar taking place September the 14th, I think, in London's lawyers' chambers about the Brexit and the Crown dependencies.
Yes.
Has a word of that reached you yet?
No, I did go to a House of Lords seminar ran by Lord Pearson and Rannoch, I think at UKIP Connections, but that was not in this era, that was 3 or 4 years ago.
Senator Balash in this island is a bit difficult to know what he actually wants, but he keeps uttering the independent
his
word.
views are similar, I suspect, to Advocate Perot, possibly more developed towards independence.
He came back the other day and gave a post-Brexit report to scrutiny, and he said a couple of extraordinary things. He wanted to have a commission to appoint judicial officers locally.
Yes, we had the same. There was musings of a Channel Island Privy Council. With all of these things, the amount of manpower they would need to get kick-started would be detrimental to initial response.
The other thing you wanted was some sort of a banking authority. Has that reached Guernsey as well?
Banking.
It wasn't bank, I forget they call it.
Well, we've got
monetary authority.
Well, we've got, of course, the Channel Island Financial Ombudsman.
Right.
And I'm perhaps a lone voice here, but I don't see a reason why, even allowing for obvious differences, why we don't have a common financial regulator across Jersey and Guernsey. But I don't think that's a popular view.
I think this was to do with, I can't work it wasn't very well explained, but it's something to do about the management of banks within banks. It's a banking problem. They've had so many banks have been fined huge sums of billions of pounds or euros or dollars, and I think there's something going on in the banking world which I don't understand, and I think they're trying to regulate it in some way.
Yes. In fact, this month in the States of Guernsey, one of the topics we're discussing, which will be interesting with the new members, will be the annual report of the Guernsey Financial Services Commission. I think that the islands are a bit reluctant to raise their head above the parapet.
Absolutely.
When one of my ex-colleagues, who's always got something unusual or interesting to say, Tony Webber, reappeared in the national media suggesting that the Channel Islands should have voted like Gibraltar did on the Brexit matter. That was strongly rebuked by the Harbour government, by senior political figures.
They don't want to attract attention, to be seen to be expressing their views.
And they don't want to be seen as potentially sucked in to
well, post-Panama, there's no escape now, is there? The Panama Papers is blowing the lid off a lot of things.
But Guernsey perhaps was less tainted by that than Jersey.
Yeah, but the implications are, the 27 countries that now make up the European Union, there was only 9 when we joined, and a lot of them are very hostile, they're going to be hostile, they're going to want regulation, they're going to be looking for tit for tat or something, aren't they? They're going to want things to happen, aren't they?
Yes.
Is that view not being expressed in the finance world?
I felt, compared to the glory days of the 010 introduction era, that there's more realism across the corporate financial sector now, that some aspects of their work will change and evolve, and of course some of the leading accountancy firms and legal law firms are not totally unhappy when the ballpark changes, because it's a good way to increase your client portfolio.
I think the £13 billion euro fine in Ireland has probably made a few people sit up, hasn't it?
I saw a strange poster somewhere today in Guernsey, I think, like no apples allowed or something like that. It was a funny indirect reference.
Right.
I'd say in the Channel Islands, the regulatory environment has become more draconian than onshore in many ways. If I could pick it a personal bone, I think the Jersey, or particularly the Guernsey consumer of limited means, especially if he or she is disabled, has a poor deal because a very large number of financial products are effectively unavailable to Channel Island restaurants. And part of the reason for that is excessive regulation and different legal systems and a lack of interest in the average client compared to the high net worth client. And I think there are even examples where Channel Islanders have difficulty gaining bank accounts.
Well, that's right.
It's a human rights issue, actually, and I think it's one that the social security bodies in both islands need to be even more aware of than they are. And they are aware, I'm sure, but moving from awareness to action, I don't think government is big brother enough with the finance sector. In that we need to be more instrumental in encouraging certain behaviours and discouraging others.
The tail wagging the dog, isn't it? Really? It's the overall problem.
And
So you mentioned human rights there, because Senator Balash said one of his post-Brexit comments was that if the British government proceeds with abolishing the human rights, they're going to have their Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
And he said, as far as he was concerned, Jersey should stay with the Convention of Human Rights.
Yes.
Has that view been expressed in Jersey? Shouldn't have the Bill of Rights.
I've raised the matter myself in social media, but I haven't heard any dialogue on it.
No. We're going to have to end this. I'm going to have to stop you talking because we're going to run off the end of the tape.
It's a quiet. It's we've been enlightened, perhaps, by a new system of government.
You think so?
And a new generation of politicians, and strengthened. But at the same time, we've been slightly weakened by the impact of an election process, which saw another 10 defeats, if you like, and a 12 retirements, and a death, as it's turned out. And the consequence of that is that we haven't fully found our voice as a new state. And the impact of some of these questions will be more apparent if we were speaking a year from now, when maybe I'll be addressing Senator Dunn.
The only thing I'd just say to you, there's one voice I do miss, talk about voices, is old St John Rebillard. I wish he was around now to comment on some of these things.
Very much so. I mean, of course, we welcome back to the States in a senior role his partner who spoke at his funeral, Peter Furbush, Advocate Furbush, who's now heading up our economic development. And I know from personal experience he's avidly campaigning for a revitalisation of light industry and a permanent base for people in the storage and construction spheres to have a future, and maybe an industrial strategy and an infrastructural strategy that has action.
What are you mostly
will supplement retail.
What does your state's work take mostly?
I'm a bit almost too busy in as much that I don't have the resources, helpers and things, infrastructure I need to be totally effective. And I have what amounts to a medium-ranking ministerial role as the President of Development and Planning, which is the old IDC in both islands. Right. But I also sit in a quasi-judicial role, if you like, on the open planning meetings and the transport licensing, air transport licensing, and I'm a member of the Employment and Social Security, which is a marriage of the old Social Security and Labour and Welfare. And I rejoined the legislation area on the panel, and still keep a certain interest in working with disability champions at this point in time too, and on diverse other bodies. And it just so happened that my work stream seemed to hit the ground running, whereas some other areas perhaps less so.
Okay, well, I'd love to go on to. There's many of those subjects I'd love to talk to you in detail, but we better leave it for the next time.
I think one area we're probably learning from Jersey, directly or indirectly, is the importance of ensuring we have enough social housing for the future. And one area perhaps where Jersey could learn from Guernsey would be in trying to rejuvenate government with the next generation.
Lots of work to do. Thanks, Tom.